Palworld is all everyone can talk about.
But it's for all the wrong reasons.
Let's talk about it. Feels stupid to ask why we're talking about Palworld, Tam.
Because there is a very, very hot clone of Pokemon in the market.
Alleged clone, please.
Playing.
Save us from Pokemon lawyers and Palworld lawyers.
Talking about Sujimon from Yakuza Infinite Wealth, of course.
To be fair, Sujimon in Infinite Wealth is great.
And they avoided any sort of drama by making the things you capture just entire humans.
Yeah, like
weirdly.
weird dudes.
That's the Pokemon clone I'm after, capturing weird dudes.
But we're not talking about that game.
No.
We're talking about Palworld. Setting the charts alight, it launched into early access, and I'm going to say it sold 7 million at the time of this recording. It will be out of date by the time this episode goes up. It's the second most concurrent players of any game ever, beating games like Counter-Strike 2 and The Witcher and Cyberpunk. It also boiled a bunch of piss.
Oh yeah, the piss boiling hasn't been. This is like, we should do a category, maybe on Giant Bomb, where it's like game that boiled the most piss.
For a game that has been touted as Pokemon with guns, comes out, a lot of the character designs bear a remarkable resemblance to Pokemon.
Yeah,
and then there's also accusations of AI-generated art. Yeah. Then there was accusations that they had straight up taken Pokemon models and put them in the game, and then that was taken back because it turned out the person who tweeted it out said that they kind of changed things a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been
a week.
It's been a weird week.
I think like the best starting point is to kind of look at where the ire is coming from, because it's motivated by so many different things and they overlap the extent that it's hard to tell where the discussion even is and what it's about. We've got people who are genuinely concerned about the impact that AI could have on creation, but that happened within the context of a lack of clarity on whether AI was actually used. So people just running with it. And then there's the people who are like, separate from that, are upset that a game is successful and has so much similarities to Pokemon, similarities to a bunch of games.
Zelda in there,
Zelda
for sure.
in there, Ark, Rust. There's so many different games. It's generic on so many different ways, but it's successful. So a lot of people are upset about that. And then there's also the people who are like, I will defend Pokemon with my life. Those are people who are also upset at this, and they're like being like, you know, the Pokemon company, you know, needs defending. I think they have the most lucrative and well-known IP on Earth. All of that is kind of coalescing into a conversation that is being pulled in so many different directions, and largely without any sort of definitive evidence on a lot of it. Within that, there's actual people who have an understanding and an actual like informed perspective who are being like swallowed by the tidal wave of various perspectives and like points. But the long and short of it is people are upset about Palworld.
Where do we want to start with why people are upset? Should we talk about fair use? Oh, that was the chair. Do not accuse me of anything.
I don't know if
that
the chair is
was
responsible for the smell that I'm currently feeling. What's going on? Oh no! What was the one that you just suggested before you ripped a dirty one?
Where do you...
fair use, yeah. So fair use is a very interesting, very murky, very everyone knows what fair use is, except no one knows what fair use is, but everyone acts like an expert. I do have a legal degree. Admittedly, it's in British law, but fair use is kind of one of those like global things that
yeah. Well, I mean, there's my fair lady, there's my fair use.
Yeah, exactly. Was that worth it?
No.
Go back to the farts. Fair use is it's a legal doctrine that is designed to enable freedom of expression through the unlicensed use of copyright protected works in very certain circumstances. The certain circumstances are where it starts to get murky, especially when it collides with commerce and that element of it, including such use by reproduction in copies or by any other means specified by the law for the purpose of criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research is not an infringement of copyright. Amongst that, there's various other ways that you can argue all of those, and also there's like parody. Parody is one of them, and that's the one that people are really looking at Palworld through. They're like, oh, this is parody, or this is like transformative, which is a part of it. Because
the gameplay itself is not Pokemon.
Yes, it's not Pokemon. I mean, it's got elements of Pokemon, but like capturing. I think armchair like legal experts who have emerged from the YouTube comment sections to tell everyone, they would say like transformative is what's here that like keeps them from incurring the legal wrath of Nintendo.
I was gonna say, because look at Lies of P and
That is
FromSoft game.
Yeah, that is transformative in various ways. But then the counterpoint is like, what about the blatant kind of like replication of, almost art assets, let's call them, for the sake of this argument.
Yeah.
The other tricky part of it that complicates the situation is the developer has other games they have a game which I think is in early access or is in development that you look at and you're like, this is Hollow Knight. Like they swapped the model for the Hollow Knight character, put a witch in there.
You know when L. Ron Hubbard said the best way to get a bunch of money is to start a religion? Same vibes with this statement. It was the best way to make a bunch of money is to borrow ideas from other people and turn it into one game.
Yeah, and like the CEO also said, like, please stop attacking us. And
the thing, other people getting like really uppity about, and I don't mean uppity in like a bad way, but like people getting, the hackles were up because allegedly like all of the character designs were done by one graduate. Yeah. One person.
Clearly there's a lot going on in it, which is questionable. I think the issue that we're having is a lot of people are definitively out there with not a lot of supporting evidence saying things about it. Like, yes, AI, my personal perspective, is not good for this industry right now, especially when artists are being like laid off and you need them to create the games in a distinct way. Assuming that this is the case, for a game that, I don't know, in the worst interpretation and judgment of it is a lazily inspired game, that is still not accurate. You can say like, yo, that Electabuzz looks like a Electabuzz. I can't believe you just did that. Or you just put Gengar's face on a Pikachu. That's something that you can definitely say like, that sucks, but you cannot then be like, this is illegal, this is bad, which is what a lot of people are doing.
And that is why when you read, is it Nintendo or the Pokemon Company?
I believe Nintendo responded.
When you read their response, we've received many inquiries about another company's game. We've not granted any permission for use of the Pokemon intellectual assets or property. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures. If they just jumped on it as soon as they saw that first trailer and they got laughed out of court, that would reduce the amount of authority they would have in actually tackling this head on if they did feel like their copyright was infringed. And so for people crying out for Nintendo to sue them, like, they took down the mod because they could, because those were Pokemon assets.
Yeah, that was a straight up depressed Ash Ketchum that they had put in there.
But something like this, there's so much nuance in it, and like even we can't really even dig into it too deeply in this episode of this conversation, but it's so weird to see where people are drawing the line with fair use versus parody, with AI versus not. And
this statement is interesting because it is more of a statement to address the fact that there's an expectation that they should make a statement. Pokemon Company, Nintendo is a company that has proactively sought out mods and fan projects that are vaguely similar or across the spectrum of it to games or IPs that they own and shut them down. They have a mechanism, machine, workflow in place to find and deal with anything that infringes on their copyright. In fact, they're probably the most aggressive out there. So the fact that that didn't happen with Palworld isn't simply a case of, oh, they were waiting for the right moment. No, they strike when they feel it's right, and they will do it immediately if they feel it is the case. From a legal perspective, they also need to gather the appropriate evidence, because if they don't come in there with the appropriate evidence and a strong and compelling case, you potentially set a precedent there.
Can of worms, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's a can of worms where then they could have accidentally opened the floodgates to anyone making a Palworld style version of their game, and that is going to be basically antithetical to what they want, because now everyone is doing whatever they want with Pokemons that are like slightly different shades of color or wherever it may be. So that's not to say that Nintendo isn't going to do anything, but like it is to say that they are very good at enforcing their IP copyrights, and two, they also know that they can't jump the gun. So maybe there will be a point in time where they rock up and they're like, Palworld, I choose you to come with me to legal beefing. I think like the long and short of this episode is, right now Palworld is a huge success, right? And it's caught people off guard. It's upsetting a lot of people. It definitely has some characteristics that are not great, but people need to be a little more careful about the kind of accusations they throw around, unfounded. There's definitely opportunities to be like, here's the evidence, this sucks, but that's not what's happening. People are just straight up tweeting through it.
Thank you for watching another episode of Spot On. Let us know what you're thinking about Palworld in the comments below. Obviously, this is such a sucky week for the industry, and it feels like every week is a really sucky week for the industry. So I don't know. What do you even say at this point?
Yeah, I mean, like, our thoughts are with the people who are busting their ass every day to make games and then get laid off.
Yeah. So even though we kind of had a little bit of fun with this one, you know, we're never not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So hearts out to you. And yeah, I guess we'll be back again next week talking about more stuff in the industry. Hopefully better times for everyone, but we'll see.
Bye.